Welcome to American Dealmaker. After the episode, it's your turn. So for season 1 of this podcast, we are voting on Twitter if the startup is a big break or a big mistake. But each episode, we're going to tally up those votes, and at the end of season 1 of this podcast, we're going to find out who has the American deal. Whoever has the most handshake votes on Twitter is going to be the startup with the American deal. Your votes do count. Excited to see who has the biggest touchdown. Welcome to American Dealmaker, where startups pitch and you decide if it's a big break or a big mistake. This is where you get to know entrepreneurs that want to make bold, transformative change. I'm your host, Constance Castillo, startup founder and Dealmaker. After the episode today, join our poll on Twitter to let us know if it's a big break or a big mistake. Tell us if they got a deal. Today's founder is Edwin Sarmiento, entering the deal room from Canada. Edwin is in the data analytics space and runs a tech business on a day-to-day basis. But for today's pitch, he is actually going to pitch you guys an idea that he came up with on the way to the podcast. It's not a business that he's currently running. He's going to pitch me and you, the deal makers, to see if you think this idea would be a big break or a big mistake. Edwin, welcome to the deal room. So Edwin, I'm so glad to have you here today. I met you through our fellow founders, and it's great to hear your perspective. I think you have a lot to share with entrepreneurs and those who have ideas that may want to start a business. So thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
And you are going to be our second guest, so this is extremely exciting. It's exciting to have you as a guest from, a different sector of business, from Canada, visiting San Francisco. You mentioned to me that you had an idea for a neon sign cleaning business. Now, this is something that I have never heard of before. Mm-hmm. Initially, when you told me whether it was a big break or a big mistake, I didn't quite know yet. This is one of those ideas that could stay written down in a notebook.
Right.
It's one of those ideas that could actually be a big business. So I'm super curious to learn more about what this business would be.
Maybe it's an entrepreneur thing where there's a million of ideas that you can see. You find a problem and then you solve it. Most of the time, entrepreneurs would find a problem, their own personal problem, and then try to solve that, and not only having a valid customer, which happens to be themselves, not realizing there are other people out there experiencing the same problems. And you talk about the neon sign. Driving through San Francisco, downtown San Francisco, and you see a lot of signs, and it's easy to take things for granted like that. I mean, what does a neon sign do in the first place? Number one is marketing, and when you do not have a consistent flow of customers coming into your door. So let's say, for instance, you have a bar or restaurant, for instance, where you have a neon sign outside, and you're struggling with a constant flow of customers. For one, you've already paid for a neon sign. It's already there. So why not make the most out of it? If I run a business that has a neon sign and I'm expecting customers to come in, but customers can't see it because it's too dirty, right? So it impinges on...
Defeats the purpose.
Exactly. So it impinges on the main reason why you had the neon sign in the first place is to attract customers. But if they can't even see the neon sign because it's dirty, then what's the point? Most of the time, again, the biggest problems most businesses have is, number one, constant flow of customers. And that's one of the reasons why businesses do advertising and marketing, getting the word out there. And one of the ways to do advertising is by coming up with neon signs. So you're literally giving businesses an opportunity to make their marketing activities more effective. But again, nobody looks at signs nowadays because everybody's on their phones, right? But even as simple as finding displays, we've got numbers, we've got address, and interestingly, I was at the RSA conference yesterday, and there were a ton of events, and they were sending out invites, and they gave us addresses. So I was out looking for addresses, and I was out looking for the sign.
Interesting.
And I couldn't find this specific event hosted by this specific restaurant because I couldn't find a sign. I ended up going to the other restaurant in this case, which, if you come to think about it, that's one lost customer just because they couldn't find a place because they couldn't read the neon sign.
And there we have it, your key customer problem and the pitch. It's great. I think it's something that many people can relate to. If you're in a city, there's lots of neon signs, but I'm not going to go too easy on you. I'm going to dive into some questions here.
Sure thing. Fire away.
We've gone to the problem. Tell me about the solution. The neon sign cleaning.
Uh-huh.
What are the details?
Neon signs, when you think about it, well, it's no different from cleaning your car, right? Cleaning your car, soap and water, that's all it is. It takes, depends on the sign, depends on the size, it takes a couple of hours. So you gotta price it right, and the cleaning is easy. It's not just about the cleaning. Doing the work is easy. Two things. One, the problem that I'm trying to solve is the constant flow of customers, is me looking for potential customers who need their signs cleaned. So that's number one. Number two is, how do you price it? Because most of the time people would say, oh, you're gonna have to pay for your materials, like what am I gonna use? Soap and water? Sure. But that may damage a neon sign. Maybe a special kind of cleaning liquid that's designed for neon signs. That's two. Number three, manpower. If I'm the only one doing it, then my entire day's tied up. And even though I can come up with 8 customers in a day, working an hour per customer, I can only do 8 customers per day. And that's not how you grow your business. The way you grow your business is you start thinking of how you can scale, serving as many customers as you possibly can, or, because the biggest challenge that most business owners face is, I'm doing so much work that I don't have time to grow the business. It's a big challenge. So you have to think of strategies on how to do that. So one way of doing that is, one, pick your ideal customer base.
What would it be for the neon sign business?
In my case, I'm thinking of, like for instance, downtown San Francisco, I'm thinking of restaurants and bars.
Restaurants and bars. Okay, so that's your ideal customer.
Yes, because number one, neon signs only matter at night, right? In the day, of course, you have sunlight and it's bright, so it's easy to find. But at night, unless the neon sign actually works, you won't be able to find it. So restaurants and bars are two of the most common businesses that have neon signs that would definitely benefit from having a neon sign clean. And of course, part of that is thinking, how much revenue or how many customers can they attract based on a simple solution like that?
Right.
Cleaning up their neon signs, bringing in more customers. Of course, the assumption there is they already have a constant flow of foot traffic within the area, so it's all about bringing them in the door, ordering something by looking at the neon sign.
Absolutely. There is a customer. Talk to me about the foot traffic.
It's interesting you ask that question, because restaurants and bars don't just show up out of nowhere. They need to understand and do their own research on how much people would pass by there. Of course, if you're on a tourist spot, the word of mouth, people coming in there and then telling their friends all about it. You're in the corner of, let's say, I don't know, any street in San Francisco, your first instinct would be, would it make sense for me to put up a bar or restaurant in this place if nobody's even walking the street, right? You're targeting an area where you know for a fact that there are a lot of people, and that's what you're trying to attract. So foot traffic is one. The amount of people that are going or walking to and from that stretch, maybe they're coming from like 2 or 3 blocks away from your bar or your restaurant. Your main goal is to attract those people.
And so really, for the business owner, it's about standing out as well against the other signs in the area. So if there's a restaurant amongst many other restaurants and they all have signs, they're going to want to have their sign to be more enticing to that foot traffic. So if they don't have a clean sign, that's going to be a problem for customers to be able to legibly read the place that they're going to and see that branding that the restaurant has put up onto a building to attract those customers. So, Dealmakers, here we have a business for a neon sign cleaning company. And this is in the idea stage, but we've already discovered the ideal customer and why it matters to the business owner. So it's really interesting to see how you're approaching this from a business owner who has a business already. You're serving customers on a daily basis. So this is really kind of your approach, is to start with the customers, start with the locations that you may target, and really discover that side of things. So this neon sign cleaning business is going to require cleaning. We haven't talked much about how you would actually service the customer. And so I want to dive into some deeper questions here.
Sure thing.
And I want to do this popcorn style. A quick answer, like, I'm gonna just run through the questions,
Sure.
okay? All right, so
Let's
let's
have
do
fun.
this. So, how much funding would you need to start a business like this up?
So, most common misconception is to have a ton of money. All you need is cleaning, ingredient, and yourself. That's it.
Great.
Probably less than $100.
So, you have what you would need to get started. Why is cleaning a priority? Just a high-level commercial for the business.
It's one way of attracting your customers by them being able to see the signs that you spend money on.
Okay. So it's a priority for their customers. How is it going to improve the business owners to have this cleaning business coming in? Are they coming in once a month? How is it going to make their businesses thrive?
The thing about cleaning is it's a regular thing. You do it once a week. Depends on how dirty the place is, twice a week. But again, the consistency of it being clean is what attracts customers. Again, perception is reality for most people. And that's just more than a brand. It's a way to attract customers in. So it could be once a week, depending on how dirty it could get, twice a week at most. We don't want to overdo it because we also want to make sure that the customer is getting the value for money.
Okay, great. We kind of got into what you want to build. How do you want to launch? Where?
How I want to launch, I've been walking around downtown San Francisco and I'm seeing a lot of restaurants and bars that really need cleaning. So I can start here when ASAP. The only thing that would prevent me from doing it is if I decide not to do it. Right? I can knock on doors. I can go on every street and every corner. Of course, you got to be strategic as well because the minute the customers start signing up, I don't want to be going from the east end to the west end and wasting time in traffic.
Right. So this is probably one of the biggest challenges that you'll face early on if you were to start this business is figuring out how to manage those different locations if you were to get customers. But it sounds like this is a door-knocking strategy of really just having conversations with the restaurant owners. And that's what's unique about serving a business like a restaurant is you can often go in and talk to the manager of the restaurant.
Absolutely.
You can really be there on site to see what their needs are and actually get their feedback right away if they actually already have a neon sign cleaner, if they would like to try it out, or if they just think that they like the signs how they are. So Rain is a competitor as well.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, how big can this get?
It's actually a very interesting question and a challenging question because the size of a company really depends on, number one, your capability to service customers, and number two, your adaptability and how you take risks. For some people, like in my case, I want to keep it small, not because I don't want it to grow big, but big depends on so many different things. Number one, what is your goal? My goal is increased revenue. Doesn't matter if I only have one person or 1,000 people company. If you're not generating profits, it's useless, right? A small company, big profits is my goal.
All right. So this is really a business where you're looking for annual recurring revenue and you're looking to see growth.
Yes.
That's how you'll know if it's a big break or a big mistake.
It is.
Have you had any conversations with the restaurant owner? Have you, pitched this idea to anyone else?
Well, not yet.
Okay.
But again, I look at it as my own problem. I think I started out with that when I was walking around the vicinity of the RSA conference, and I was supposed to be at one of the restaurants, but couldn't find it because I couldn't find a place. And when you think about it, that's a problem that a lot of people face. And that's also a problem that a lot of businesses like restaurants and bars face because, again, you could put a pin on Google Maps, you can start walking around, and you can still get lost because you don't have a sign.
Right.
And even if you do have a sign, but it's so dirty, nobody can even see it, what's the point of having it?
Right, and Google is another competitor. I think that you mentioned Google Maps, and someone could actually Google how to clean a neon sign. So talk to me about Google.
Right. There are a ton of opportunities when you're looking at that. One of which is Google is a big advertising company. You search for services, products, you'll find it on Google, right? One thing that you could do with that, and again, I'm not even talking about technology, that's my thing, but when you start to think about Google as a competitor, why not look at Google as your partner and tell the story of how even when you have Google Maps looking for that business, that restaurant or bar, and still couldn't find it, even though Google Maps says, and the pin on Google Maps says it's there, but I still couldn't find it because I don't see the sign. And so this, again, this spins the story around, hey, doesn't matter if you're on Google Maps, doesn't matter if you have a sign, if nobody can see the sign, nor could anybody read the sign because it's too dirty, you're losing that market share.
Right. And I think that, cleaning is a very interesting business. A lot of business owners say that the best businesses are those which deal with a very boring need. And cleaning neon signs is something that I think is within that category. I actually know of a hot tub cleaning business, and their entire business model is hot tub education.
Wow.
So they have a website called Swim University where all of their content is about how to clean hot tubs, and it's something that you wouldn't necessarily think of as, let me search up this content, but when you're on Google and you're searching how to do things, there are users who have these needs. That's a great business, a great successful business. That's an example of someone else that's in cleaning space that has launched their business online and seen a lot of success that way. Big picture, I think best case scenario, neon sign cleaning becomes not just something that restaurant owners use, but people online searching can actually find out about the business and learn something as well. Worst case is that there's already a competitor out there cleaning all the neon signs and face an even bigger business challenge. Tell me about how you would deal with competitors. What would be your competitive advantage?
It's interesting you mentioned that this is about the hot tub cleaning, and then spun it up with like education stuff where, how do I do this because I have a hot tub? Again, this could be something that either business owners are already thinking about or a competitor might be doing. Part of that is education, putting out videos out there, and part of the strategy is education marketing, right? You put a video on YouTube or on TikTok, and all of a sudden you're getting hits, you're getting views, and that could turn into an advertising revenue business where, and you've probably seen a lot of these people who are making a ton of money posting YouTube videos. We're now not just looking at neon sign cleaning business, but also ad-based business where telling people or showing people how to clean neon signs is also making money. So it's a win-win thing. It's more than just, again, competitor-wise, a lot of the times when people think, oh, we have competition, right? It's good to understand your competition, but it gets tiring to always think about competing because your focus is no longer on the customer. Your goal as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, is focus more on what does the customer need, right? Instead of competing, how can I compete? Because when you're looking at competition, you're looking at scarcity versus when you're focusing on the customer, you're thinking about abundance. And so again, I'm throwing a lot of the stuff like when it comes to the entrepreneur psychology, because most of the time people just focus on strategy while not realizing, hey, I may have competitors, but I can make money off of them by posting YouTube videos and they start watching from it.
You're very customer centric, and perhaps your competitive advantage would come from the customers. I love that you're really interested in focusing on how you're delivering value to those customers. And we're going to get into your ideas about entrepreneurship as well.
I think another perspective is you can also expand into the cleaning detergent and equipment phase. If you
I like how he's thinking.
If you are on YouTube and making videos, why not start your own product line?
Yeah.
That's another revenue stream.
Love that. We're getting some input from the studio audience. And you actually mentioned another question. Let's take some questions from the studio audience about this business.
Sure thing.
So I was wondering, why SF? Why not a place like Vegas, where there are tons of neon signs, and I'm sure there's already multiple businesses running out there. But if you want to start a small scale business, so the number of active customers should be higher. So why not places like Vegas, and why here?
Oh, that is insane.
So why San Francisco?
So why San Francisco? For one, I just need an excuse to be here. I could do less. I could do Vegas, and you're right, because Vegas is known as the city. Well, that's New York City, as the city that's up 24/7. So they definitely need neon signs more than restaurants and bars that close at 3 or 4 in the morning. But yeah, Vegas could be a really good market.
Yeah.
I could start there if I wanted to, but that is a really good input. Thank you for that.
It also has the neon sign museum and stuff. So
Exactly.
yeah. so it makes sense to start at Vegas.
Love it. I think that Vegas reminds me of a neon sign when I think of Vegas. That's a very, very good possible place to consider.
It is.
Any more questions from the studio audience?
Nothing. I'm good.
Nothing else. Okay. Now I'm just thinking about marketing. What are we going to do about marketing?
Most of the time people think of marketing as launching an ad campaign, doing a marketing campaign. I try to keep it as simple as I possibly can and not be scalable, which is kind of ironic because when you're starting a business, people think, oh, you have to think of scale. No, when you're starting a business, you have to do things that nobody is willing to do, like door-to-door talking to people. And the reason for that is, again, coming from a tech background, that's data. So I'm doing two things. Number one, I'm doing marketing, and I'm collecting data, which kind of like a feedback loop.
Right.
I'm talking to a customer, asking them, hey, do you need my service? If they say no, then I have a data point. If they say yes, I have a customer and a data point. So it's a win-win, right? It's not scalable in the beginning, but the more data you collect, the more you can come up with analysis on what is this customer like? What are they trying to do? What's their goal? What are their pain points? I like looking at it from a totally different spin where when people say, I want to spend money on marketing, I want to spend money on advertising, I'm always thinking, hey, why don't I do marketing and get paid to do it, right? Interestingly, because we were having this conversation earlier about why don't we have a DIY video about cleaning neon signs? That is one form of marketing, and if I end up promoting a product, a cleaning product, I get commissions out of it. So now I'm doing marketing while getting paid for it, which is kind of cool because, again, it changes the notion of you need to spend money to do marketing. The way I look at it, why don't I get paid money while I do marketing?
Market research, and I think that's really what you're speaking about here is getting to know a little bit more about the market before diving into marketing. And when you say this idea about the DIY videos, I think that's a wonderful idea. When I think about watching a TikTok video about how to clean a neon sign, I'm actually curious. So I think that could be a really interesting approach. And I'm actually seeing confetti right now. I'm seeing confetti. I really think that is a big break. We're going to do a podcast pivot. I want you to have an opportunity to share with the Dealmakers a little bit about coming up with business ideas. I actually think that there's a lot to this idea, but for someone starting out who maybe has a business idea of their own or can't come up with an idea, tell me about what your advice would be to them and how you feel like would be the best way to get started.
Gotcha. There are a couple of questions within that question, so let's start with ideas. Keep it simple. A lot of people who are into these idea, I want to be a business owner, I want to start my own company, I want to start my own business, they get this feeling of like deer in the headlights kind of thing where they've got a ton of ideas but couldn't focus on any one of them. The sooner you can come up with something, because most people are thinking of, hey, I need a million dollar idea. Oh, I need a breakthrough. No, you don't. You just need an idea. One idea executed, not even properly. One mediocre idea executed is way better than 50,000 amazing ideas that were in the back pocket, on your notebook. Because at the end of the day, it's all about solving people's problems.
And you mentioned focus. What are some things that you do to focus?
Get rid of your phone. That's one. Focus is one thing. And this is something that a lot of people are not even doing. Spend some quiet time alone and ask yourself, number one, how do I really like this idea? What is this trying to meet within myself? And sometimes it ends up becoming a philosophical conversation with yourself. But that's exactly it. When you ask business owners and entrepreneurs, those who made it big, they're trying to solve their own problem while at the same time they're trying to meet their own need. It's not out of ego, it's just that they did something about it. Despite the hundreds of ideas they had, they focused on one. They put the time and effort doing it, tested it, launched it, learned from it. If they made a mistake, went back to the drawing board, tested another idea until something finally clicked. It's an experimentation that makes you really find what would click for you.
So spending some time to reflect, starting to work towards one idea.
That is it.
Interesting. As a business owner, what's your why?
My why has always been, how can I help other people become better? And there's so many ways of doing that. Starting a business is one thing, but what is it that I'm doing that would help people become better? And in my case, I run a tech consulting business. The real power behind tech are the people. And so if you empower the people, the tech becomes better. You accomplish more because the tech becomes better. That's my why. In everything that I do, I'm always looking at, how can I do this so that it helps people become better?
Interesting. And I definitely see that in your approach to the neon sign business. And it's very exciting to be able to really explore this business. So I'm so happy that we could go through some of your perspective, talk about the neon sign business. Now, I do want to just give the deal makers one more overview of the neon sign business before they decide if it's a big break or a big mistake. So going back to our popcorn questions, what is the elevator pitch for the neon sign business?
I did not see that coming. Let's just see. Draw more customers in.
Okay. Is it a big break or a big mistake? It's time to deliberate. Head on over to Twitter and decide if you think that this is a big break or a big mistake. Does anyone have a deal? Would you do a deal with the neon sign business? Let the startup know if they have a deal. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna cut you a break. I think this neon sign business is really interesting. So I think it's a big break. So I am going to give you a break.
I'll take the half.
Yeah. So for today we'll do half. So 2 bars out of the 4 Kit Kats. So it's half of a big break.
I'll take it.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you to WeFunder for making this episode possible. Thank you to our studio audience. And thank you, Edwin, for coming on this podcast. As a fellow founder and someone in the startup scene, I really appreciate your openness to coming on a newer podcast, putting yourself out there, and having fun with this idea. It's nothing too serious. I hope that the audience can learn from some of your thoughts and ideas about entrepreneurship and how to build a business. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming on to the American Dealmaker. I hope that it wasn't too much of a tough roast.
The thing about that is, again, as an entrepreneur, you have to think on your toes and understand. And this is one of the reasons why I do this is I want to see if an idea would stick. And if it does, then let's go do it. It's experimentation. This is me collecting data. Whatever response I get from this, I take action and then move on.
And now it's your turn. Deliberate. So once again, thank you for coming on to the American Dealmaker.